Good afternoon. May I request students to scan this barcode? This barcode is for the questions you might have for our esteemed speakers over here after their presentation is over. So we won't be showing this scanner again. You can WhatsApp your questions. First put your name, then the name of your institution, then a very precise question relevant to the discussion what's happening over here. And we'll be looking at the best question also after the program is over. Good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of Prem Jain Memorial Trust, I welcome esteemed speakers, our BOG members, faculties, and dear students to this program. And we are so happy to see all these young and shining faces over here. We will start this program and start with the national anthem. May I request everyone to stand for the national anthem, please. Thank you. And a request again, students, to please keep quiet, be seated, and please switch off or put your mobile phones on silent, please. And I request now Prem Jain to please come onto the stage. Sorry for that small disruption. The student is nodding that she is okay, I believe. Okay, perfect. May I request Payal to please come onto the stage to start the program, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can I ask for silence? Just wait a minute. I think that student is stepping out. Yeah. Those who've just walked in, can I ask you to please sit? Yeah, come in the front row, please. Wherever you are getting seats, just sit down. Good afternoon and welcome to the 7th edition of the Prem Jain Memorial Address. This is also our 7th Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav. It just seems like yesterday when we created PJMT, and I have the front row of the entire PJMT family who has made this day possible. When we conceived this Green Festival, we called it Mahotsav, thinking it will take on a larger life and it'll become a countrywide celebration. We started with 2 or 3, 4 events. Java Sahib, I just see you've arrived. I hope you're okay. Today it has taken on such great proportions. We, from north to south, east and west, we have 4 strong communities of PJMT. And I think we have crossed the 100 mark in the last 5 days. The festival has kind of spread beyond the week from 23rd to 29th to starting around the 15th. It's spilling into February, so it's becoming a month of celebration. I do want to thank everybody who's here today, especially our speakers. Raghavedranji, thank you very much for being here. Mr. Menon, thank you. I know you're both very busy, but thank you for taking out the time. I do want to also really thank my PJMT family, the community which has made this day possible. I also want to specially thank Blue Star for their support and faith in PJMT. Tyagarajanji is not here today. He had some urgent commitment, but they've partnered with us for this address, and just, the support and faith means a lot to us. Thank you. Over the last 7 years, we have worked with more than 15,000 students. Some have been online sessions, some have been in person. When COVID happened, we started addressing different issues like mental health and health and safety, which I believe are all part of sustainability. When you think about sustainability holistically, it's about living sustainably, being sustainable, being healthy, being happy, whether it's mentally, physically, making the planet better, nurturing your planet and nurturing yourself. Recently, I heard somebody say that what is good for the planet is good for the community. What is good for the community is good for the country, and what is good for the country is good for you as people, as human beings. I think it was Mr. Java who had mentioned this line, and it has stayed with me. If we all think like that, I think we will be part of this change, and we all know where we are as far as climate change is concerned, as far as environment is concerned. So this is a very, very important conversation. And PJMT is here to catalyze this with wonderful speakers, with eminent people, industry leaders, and faculty and students. And I want to especially thank the faculty members who are here, all sitting very quietly there. But it's thanks to you that we have these students involved, and it's thanks to you that they are doing all that they are doing. I was just now talking to one of the faculty members who was saying they incorporate sustainability into every single thing they do. And you don't have to be a student of architecture and engineering to do sustainability. You can just be a person who loves your planet. And I think all of us have to love our planet because we have no other planet to go to. So I want to also talk a little bit about the National Green Earth Challenge, which we have just launched 4 months ago. We've had an overwhelming response of about 1,100 registrations. Colleges across the country, from north to south to east to west. We have an architecture engineering challenge, and we have a design challenge. We've engaged with more than 500 colleges. The results of this challenge will be announced in March. And we are hoping that we will see a whole new generation of green crusaders and champions, and they'll all be under the age of 25. I want to finally thank our partners, IGBC, of course, without whom we wouldn't be walking this path, and they have been, Suresh ji is here, the past chairman, and he has been very instrumental in driving the partnership between IGBC and PJMT, and it's kind of like this one big family of sustainability which has formed over the last 6 years. Daikin India, Mr. Java is here, thank you very much. Briar, Mr. Pava is not here today, but I know he is in spirit. Ishre, Ashray, Green Tree Global, and D2O Learning. Every single college that has found the time, has connected their students, my sincere thanks to you. Those who knew my father, Dr. Jain, knew that he was a passionate engineer, an inspiring teacher, and a very committed crusader for his beloved Janani Janmabhoomi, as he called it. His vision was to make Bharat Jagan Guru. In India, when he started the movement of sustainability, India was at 20,000 square feet. I remember I was very young in those days. And through the years, we went from 20,000 to 1 billion and then 10 billion in 2023. Today, IGBC drives 13 billion square feet in India. I think we're number 2 to the world. That is the power of change. That is the power that you can create in your own careers, in your own lifespans. You can be part of this and you can take it to different heights. I will end with one last line by Rabindranath Tagore. The highest education is that which does not merely give us information, but makes our life in harmony with all existence. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Hariharan Chandrasekhar, who we never acknowledge enough. Thank you for being the pivot of PJMT. Thank you for your time, your energy, your guidance, for always being there with us. I will ask him to come and take over the mic. Thank you very much.
Namaskar to all of you students first and then to the faculty. Prem Jain is a very blessed person, one of the very rare in terms of blessings, because every hour of the day, not just every day, she is doing this Prem Smaran, and you don't get to doing that. If you ask your father, and if he has lost his some parent, you do it once a year, right? So Prem Jain is a very blessed man in his ways to have had a rare daughter like Payal. Good afternoon once again to all of you. I must acknowledge the presence first of Padma Shri C.N. Raghavendran. He comes from Chennai. I've known him probably for about 15, 16 years. There he is. And over breakfast today, he told us a couple of fascinating stories. Suresh ji and I were sitting with him. And I will not want to narrate those tales. It's best that he tells you. And I suspect that the children will love more what he says than the faculty here. Then I have the pleasure of introducing Hari Menon, who is here. He is an amazing man in his own ways. He heads the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the BMGF as it is called. He's doing a tremendous amount of work, not in our cities. He works on health. And if you have done one bare quick cursory search on the web for Hari Menon BMGF, you'll find enough things for you to want to understand what he represents. To me, the two of them today, like many of the speakers of the past have done at the Memorial Lecture series, are going to, in some ways, reflect those aspirations and echo the spirit of India that is unshackling itself after having lived 75 years of her destiny. When you listen to that song, Tagore's 1911 song, he wrote it for other purposes at the time when Henry V was coming to India. But you listen to the song, Tava Shubha, you know the rest. Uchchala Jaladi Taranga, he writes, and Jaladi Taranga, right? He's talking of how the melody of the Himalayan echo mingles with the melody of the two rivers. You must listen to all the 5 stanzas of the anthem, especially since we are talking, just after the Republic Day, a day when Dr. Jain was born. See, it's very interesting how here is a man who is born on January 26th. Here is a man who weds I think one day before Gandhi Jayanti, or one day after, October 3 was, I think, his wedding anniversary. Every time he wrote anything, it was like he wrote for 1 million people. If you have read, for example, the first early chapter of Jawaharlal Nehru's letter to his daughter, you will see how he writes in a certain way. He's not writing to his daughter alone, but. And he wrote this when he was in Ahmednagar in the jail in Aurangabad district these days, right? There is a letter that Prem Jain shares with me this after, some 2-3 days ago. And I find there is a certain resonance that he brings. You listen to CNR today and you'll find that sense of not urgency, but of reflection. And I will want to quickly also acknowledge the presence of Rajneesh Joshi, who is a Board of Governing member for us. Please, if you can stand up and acknowledge. Kamaljeet Jawar Saab, I will say, is a great student, first of Dr. Jain. Today he runs a company at $1.5 billion, and he brings the same utter humility to everything he does. It's a blessing that he's here today. You know, a few accidents, happy accidents, gave him time enough to see that he'll be part of us today. But every single meeting that we have held here in Delhi of the memorial lecture, he has somehow managed to find time. And it shows his own devotion to those values that his mentor, Dr. Jain, represented. I'll of course have to say something about Sheetal. Sheetal here is an architect from Delhi, from your city. And Sheetal is also chairperson of the Indian Green Building Council, the Delhi chapter. Arun Sitaram is, there she is. And Arun Sitaram is a new voice. He's a contemporary voice. And today you won't get a chance to listen to him, but if you did, you will find that man will raise a lot of, applause from you all, because this guy, he thinks like a 21-year-old, and is as impatient as you can be if you are in college today. The last I've kept is for V. Suresh. Suresh ji is today the oldest in this room, but he's the youngest at heart, right? Actually, between the two, CNR and him, in terms of age, they will probably be a few months younger or older. I must tell you another story I'm sure I can take the liberty of telling you this. In 1949 or so, 5-6 years that Suresh ji was in terms of age, his family almost gave up on him. He got some kind of a disease which they couldn't figure out in those days. And for months on end, they thought this boy is gone, this child is gone. His grandmother weans him, and over the next, I think, 3 or 4 years, by 1952-53, he's a 1944 born, by the way, he is back nourished to health, to a point where, look at him, at 82, I was telling Sheetal earlier, this man will shame you, forget me, into whatever, in terms of the amount of energy and activity he brings. Day before night, he comes at 4 a.m., he lands at 4 a.m. in Delhi. He had a full day of work yesterday, 8 p.m. to some 9 p.m. I see him in the morning over breakfast, and I know he has to leave today at some unearthly hour. He's leaving at some 2:30 or some such thing from here to catch a flight that starts at 5 a.m. in the morning to Trivandrum all the way. And this is not one day schedule for a man like him. Between him and this CNR here today, I'm sorry I'm taking a little more time than I should be. It's a story that you'll all love to hear. They both spent about 10 days in a college in 1960. It's called very well known, even in India, called the Guindy Engineering College. They don't meet each other. Look at how destinies bring them together. Those 10 days, one boy is doing architecture, the other boy is doing engineering as aspirants to become an architect and engineer. And look at how they blazed a phenomenal trail over the next 65 years or so. CNR, I'm not going to introduce him. I leave that honor and privilege to V. Suresh. V. Suresh also is working on, he's today the chairman of the National Building Code. And if any of you are engineers here or architect aspirants, by the time you get to practicing or working in some company, you will be following guidelines that he is going to be setting in the next 3 to 4 months in the revised NBC Code 2025. It's such a privilege, trust me on this, to be in the midst of people like these who are living and with you. It's a memory I will cherish personally myself. From here, I will want to, Okay. Well, what we call it well, it's like a simple felicitation, our way of paying tribute to each of the people who are here. All of them in the front row here, and of course Sandeep Narang here. And Payal, I don't have to say, Manish is here. Yeah, there he is. I didn't name Manish at all, but Manish is like Dr. Jain's son in many ways. And I keep joking with everybody saying he's Payal's husband. He's much more than that. He does many more things. But this isn't the forum for me to talk about Manish. Please join us. Come. Please come. Come, Payal. Please come. I'm always a little lost on this part of it. We'll
first do this.
As part of, this has been for the last 7 years, this is the 7th year we're doing this. This is a matter of, a small token of our recognition of their having, offered us time. We'll just do a ceremonial lighting of the lamp. I think the whole team should be here. Anyone else should? Devashish, come on. Please come. Please come. You've been part of it, Devashish. Come.
No, it's all yours, sir.
No, it's done. Now I invite
You invite Rajneesh sir.
tell the speakers to come down. Right.
Rajneesh sir will introduce.
Correct. You can stay, I think. You can stay, I think, since they are here. Well, the two speakers are here. Hari Menon will go first, but he will be introduced by Rajneesh Joshi, who's been in the HVAC sector for 40 years now, I think. And he has been, again, a devoted student of Dr. Jain. No, please, it's okay. And he is a member of the governing council of the Prem Jain Memorial Trust from the beginning. So we thought we will offer him the privilege of introducing Hari Menon. And very interesting man Hari Menon is, and in the short thumb sketch that you will secure from Rajneesh Joshi, you will find him to be a person that you want to listen to. And as far as CNR and Sureshji go, I will not want to say anything about them just now. You will see that Sureshji will introduce him. What a wonderful situation, right? Two people who know each other for 64 years, right? In some ways, talking to each other on a platform of this kind. So over to you, Rajneesh.
Namaskar, good afternoon, young students, faculty and friends. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here to introduce our keynote speaker for the day, Mr. Hari Menon. And also for some of you who are aware or maybe not aware, today also happens to be the concluding day of the Prem Harit Mahotsav. And the Prem Jain Memorial Address is something which, as Payal mentioned, started 7 years ago, is something which everyone looks forward to every year. And every year we've had some very renowned speakers from different fields.
That's the list.
And just to add, some of the speakers have been Padma Vibhushan B.V. Doshi, Mr. V.K. Saraswat, architect Mr. Shankar, architect Mr. Pradeep Sachdeva, Justice Swatantra Kumar, Mr. Gautam Gambhir, the cricketer, I think you all know, Mr. Pradeep Burman, architect Brinda Somaya, Mr. Shiv Khera, Mr. Gaurav Shori, architect A.T. Ravindran, architect Kirti Shah, Mr. Bankar Roy, Mr. Christopher Pinninger, and Justice Adarsh Goel. And today we are adding on two more prominent speakers. And I'm here to once again thank you all for taking time to be here. And we have with us Mr. Hari Menon. Mr. Hari Menon has been associated with the Gates Foundation for a very long time. But before that, he is an engineer by profession, and he did his management from XLRI Jamshedpur. And he has a very wide exposure and experience working for MNCs and also for technology companies like Infosys, etc. He has been associated now with the Bill Gates Foundation since 2004, and he is currently the director for India country and Southeast Asia and Asian countries. As some of you may know, that Gates Foundation is largely into alleviating the poverty, bringing about equality in women, and ensuring that every nook and corner in the country is looked after from the point of view of health, sanitation, and many other things. He has been interacting very actively with the state governments, with the central government, with the non-profit NGOs, and at this point in time, he's also quite actively involved with the central government in helping implement the UN SDGs. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And he has, to his credit, a few other things. He's been also, he took a 2-year stint to be with a philanthropic organization, and he was a strategic advisor in that philanthropic organization. And Mr. Menon today is here to address you all and explain to you what the Gate Foundation is doing and how we can see and help in moving towards achieving some of the SDG goals which the country has set forth. And sir, in our small way, PJMT is also working towards goal SDG 4, 7, 9, and 13. So we will also look forward to your advice in terms of what more we can do to see that we can also be walking step in step with the Gates Foundation. Now over to Mr. Menon.
I'll make a minor change. Okay. We discussed it. What we are thinking is that you heard now this profile of Hari Menon, and you're going to listen to him soon. We thought we'll request Suresh ji to give you an idea of what Padma Shri CNR represents, so that you will then know what these two speakers are going to offer you as their thoughts and reflections. Over to you, Suresh ji.
When we can go down, then the address will be the one.
Then we'll, yes, we'll do.
Thank you. Very happy good afternoon, all you young ones, bright ones, hope of the future. Such a honor, pleasure and privilege to stand before you on this wonderful day on Harith Prem Bharat Mahotsav's Memorial Address Day for our dear Prem Jain's Memorial Address here. Payalji, you are there to address and to greet all of us. And such an honor to introduce architect Raghavendran, who is also Padma Shri architect Raghavendran. We were together in 1960, about 65 years back, in the College of Engineering, Guindy, the oldest engineering college in the country, 235 years old. But then he went on to IIT Kharagpur after that, a few days to go for architecture. I continued to be doing the engineering, civil engineering. So, well, that's the just background. So, it's an honor to introduce, therefore, architect Raghavendran, who is representing the famous C.R. Narayan Rao company. In 1945, the company has been there. The company is therefore there for the last 80 years time period. You can understand. He, along with his brother, structural engineer of his father, is really built, and now the next generation has taken over the company, and now he is the director emeritus of this company. Raghavendran received his bachelor's degree for BR Honours from the IIT Kharagpur, 1965. As I told you, graduated about 60 years back, and Masters of Architecture degree from University of California at Berkeley for USA in 1967. And he has been successfully delivered impactful projects in India and many foreign governments and also multinational corporations and public sector undertakings. His notable contributions, of course, has been on the environmentally sensitive and innovative approach to focus people, place and climate in a large context there. Sustainable integrated design practice has been one of his forte, and using advanced building technology equally, not just architectural space design, but bringing structural issues also in a very strong way by his phenomenally great buildings called the precast and pre-stressed concrete buildings of Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium at Chennai and Cochin Indoor Stadium at IIT Madras. and many high-performance buildings which has got awards of a very large nature, including the Ebony Cyber Tower in Mauritius, which got many international awards. I'll talk about that in a few minutes now. Amazon Development Center at Hyderabad and other platinum-rated, many platinum-rated IGBC platinum-rated buildings of green building. Well, it's equally important that he's a strong supporter of sustainable development, and sustainable development is a theme which is important, and as everybody knows, Dr. Jain Saab is the one, after the Sustainable Development Goal was launched in 2015, introduced a chapter on sustainability in National Building Code in 2016 version. And ever since that, sustainability has been a very major theme, and Raghavendran himself has been the leader for the IGBC rating system for the new building. See, even now, all the building that has got the rating has come under his signature, will still be there on that of the IGBC one. And he's also been the chairman of the Chennai chapter. Just now you met Sheetal dealing with the Delhi chapter here, and from a very long period till 2022. And he has been the resource person for the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, where you talk of the Energy Conservation Building Code 2007, 2017, you have the 2024 version of the Energy Conservation Sustainable Building Code. They added the new component of the ECBC with the sustainable aspect also added as a new one, in addition to energy conservation in a very large way. And also promoting the ECBC in the whole thing. He has been very important one is for especially students being there, of his role that has been there for architectural education has been phenomenal. All India Board of Studies, he has been a member of the All India Council of Technical Education, member of the Governing Council of the National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad Academic Council of Anna University for engineering, the same university where they all come from, contribute significant advancement and revamping of technical education in architecture in India. And that's one thing I'm sure when he speaks, he'll be able to bring that what is good or bad about the education here and what pluses are happening. I'm sure he'll touch on that. He was also selected top, most important being from IIT Kharagpur, where the best architectural and planning schools are there in the country. He is one among the 100 illustrious IITians, very important award for great, is a publication called 100 Great IITians. He is one among them. Very importantly, Padma Shri in 2011, and Indian Institute of Architecture Design Excellence Award 1995, Architecture of the Year 1996, IIT Kharagpur Distinguished Alumnus Award from the Honorable Prime Minister of India in 2011, Boundless Achievement as an Architect 2023 from PhD Chamber of Commerce. Construction Industry is one of the important awards. He's been the Industry Doyen, and he has been already got the Industry Doyen Award in 2019, US Green Building Council's Leadership Award of 2020, IGBC's Green Champion Award in 2019, and IAS Hall of Fame. That's the highest award that the architects can get, is the Hall of Fame Award in 2012. An Intelligent Building of the Year 2005 award has been received from New York, the Intelligent Community Forum there, and for as told the Ebony Cyber Towers. Received special trophy commendation certificates of professional services rendered for many stadium projects, which I just now indicated a little earlier, including from the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu for 2-3 other projects. And he's also featured in the international publication, which is very important, Architecture of Contemporary India, of the great contributions that he's done in this area. He's been a jury of large number of interesting projects. I don't want to list all of them. Many large number of projects that are National War Memorial, Government of India, Selection Committee, Hall of Fame for ACREX, Economic Times Smart Green Awards, Summit, NDTV Design and Architectural Awards, ACE Award, Emerson Cup Awards. All put together is a phenomenal young one, including, of course, the World GBC, Asia Pacific, and Asian Young Designer. So you will also become one of these days as a young architect coming up to this particular level. Phenomenal amount of lectures and keynote addresses, literally all great fora that I can think of, not only the IGBC where we had the honor of hearing from him, the CII, Confederation of Real Estate Development Association of India, ISHRE, FSAI, etc., and many of the illustrious education institutions, architecture schools, very large in number. I don't want to read that. I'm sure today when he's going to address you the memorial address, you'll be able to hear that brilliant streak of what he is with over 60 years after his graduation in 1965, like me, and I'm sure we are eager looking forward to hear from Padma Shri architect Raghavendra and my good colleague together in the college. Thank you. I'll take leave.
Well, I will request CNR to also join Suresh ji. Let's sit down there and listen to Hari Menon speak. Maybe he has a presentation to make. As you saw, the introduction to CNR will be longer than the lecture that he will want to offer us, I think. He's done so much as distinguished work. The another small thing is this, to all of you who are here as students of architecture, engineering, and so on. I'm sure you know Yatin's number. You have scanned. Okay, you have scanned it. You're not. Okay, you can speak from there. So you have scanned it. As he speaks, listen to him. If there are questions, put that down and send it to us. And then we'll respond to those questions at the end of it. Similarly, when CNR sir speaks, do that for us. Over to you. Okay. Sure.
Good afternoon. Greetings to everyone who's here in the audience. This is actually just the second time in my life that I find myself on the stage of this auditorium. I've been in the audience many times because lots of illustrious speakers, lots of great events happen here. The first time I was here was actually, I was in school, I think I was in grade 9, so almost 40 years ago. And I used to be a very active quizzer in school. So one of the prominent quizzes in Delhi used to be conducted by St. Columba School. And so I was at St. Xavier's. So in class 9, we found ourselves in the final of that quiz. And that was held here. The finals were on the stage. So it takes me back to a time when I was as young or younger than many of you in the audience. Now, of course, much has changed, but it feels nice to be back in these familiar surroundings. And my deep gratitude to Payalji, Dr. Hariharan, and of course, Mr. Tyagarajan for extending the invitation in the first place to join you for this afternoon and speak. Now, having heard the extensive introduction of Raghavendran ji's credentials, he really is the headline speaker for today. So I am a bit of an opening act, so I'll try and keep it a bit shorter. So because I'm very keen to hear from his life story and his experiences. He's had a very illustrious life, done a lot more, in the 60 years that he's been active. I'm 52, so getting on in the years. I'll just try to share a bit about why I think, all of you in the audience need to join the battle to preserve your future. So Tyagarajan ji said the theme of this afternoon is going to be down to earth. So please, focus your remarks on that. Now that's easier said than done. Down to earth is, pretty expansive theme. The Gates Foundation is a very technical organization. So I actually came here with some prepared remarks, but they're very technical in nature, and I think this is not what I want to talk about. So I'm going to improvise on the fly. I will refer to some of what I've got, but I want to spend the time that I have with you today to make a few cases. One, why this juncture in human history, 2025 onwards, I'd say the next 25 years, are probably going to be the most pivotal for the future of mankind and the future of Earth. That's one. The second, why, for those of you who are in your 20s, this is going to be a matter of what kind of world you want to inherit and shape. People like me are old enough that, we may be lucky to last another 25 years, and even if not, we will be bequeathing a set of problems to you that are far more considerable than my generation bequeathed from our predecessors. And that can sound like a negative note, but then I want to make the case why there has never been a better time to be alive and a better time to be a human. Just looking at where civilization and social progress has brought us, and why we have the tools and we have many of the ingredients for the solutions that we'll need to really bring together if we want to have that sustainable future for all. So bear with me as I make my meandering way through these 3 points. So to start, sustainable development, I mean, if many of you probably carrying your phones, so many of you probably using it as we speak. Just do a Google search on sustainable development. You'll get a simple definition. And what it means in essence is a way to meet the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. That is the essence of sustainability. Put differently, Mahatma Gandhi's eternal words, the earth has enough for everyone's needs, but not for everyone's greed. And that's, I think, the most critical principle to keep in mind as you think about sustainability and charting the future for what it means to have growth and to have development. I think it's fair to say that the kinds of challenges the world has been facing, particularly the impacts of sudden climate shocks, has reached a scale where it's impossible for anyone to deny that climate change is happening. It's happening at an unprecedented scale. It's happening more rapidly than scientists had predicted, and no one is safe from the impacts. For anyone who's been watching the news the last few weeks, you would have heard about the fires in Los Angeles. The homes of some of the wealthiest, most privileged people in the world destroyed along with their entire lives worth of possessions. Gives you a sense that the forces of nature, when unleashed, no amount of human vanity can protect us or preserve us. We are really tiny ants in that sense, and if nature turns on us, we will be crushed. I mean, there are no second thoughts about us. Yes, it's going to affect the poorer and the most marginalized even more. The wealthy in Beverly Hills or the Pacific Palisades or wherever may have the resources to rebuild and buy new homes. The poor obviously will not. And the challenge is, nature once unleashed does not discriminate. So the floods that we've seen in northern India, or the cyclones that have affected many parts of the Asia Pacific, the hurricanes that have been gaining strength over the Atlantic and striking various parts of the US. These are all part of a story that are unfolding. And just underlining again and again that we cannot ignore what we are doing to the planet. The consequences are there for all of us. I work obviously at the Gates Foundation. We used to be called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Unfortunately, Bill and Melinda got divorced 3 years ago, and the foundation has now undergone a name change. So we are now just the Gates Foundation. And that is a testament to the fact that Bill Gates, Melinda French Gates, and Bill Gates' father, all of whom share that surname, Gates, they were the primary inspirations for the foundation being set up. I want to take you back to a pivotal event in the lives of Bill and Melinda, which led to the setup of the Gates Foundation. And the reason I want to share this is just to say that the stimuli for us to change the directions of our lives lurk in the everyday events and incidents. It's just a matter of, are you attuned to those signals when they come their way? Bill Gates in the mid-90s was already, I think, the wealthiest person in the world, was presiding over Microsoft, which was then easily the most powerful and the most successful technology company. And you could say life was going incredibly well for him. In 1995, he and Melinda read an article in the New York Times by a journalist called Nicholas Kristof. That article changed their lives because it led to the creation of the Gates Foundation. And what that article covered was Nicholas Kristof had spent a few weeks traveling in Africa, and he came back and wrote a story about this disease called rotavirus, which was killing 500,000 children every year. And he basically, I forget the exact subject, but it was basically the biggest killer you've never heard of. That was sort of the subject. And, you know, Bill, who prides himself on knowing everything, actually had never heard of rotavirus. So when he read that story, he started to research it. This was still the early days of the internet. You didn't have Google, but you had other search engines. And he tried to read up, why does this disease exist? Why is it so anonymous if it's killing 500,000 children every year? And the answer was the disease was as prevalent in the wealthy world, but children there used to get vaccinated, and so people wouldn't die. Whereas in the poor world, people did not have access to vaccinations for rotavirus, and so it was actually a fatal disease. And so he and Melinda had a conversation and, you know, decided that this was a problem that they wanted to solve, because clearly markets were not solving for this. Corporations don't really want to spend money for people who can't pay for their services, right? So while there were American companies that had vaccines that they were selling in the US and many other rich countries to people who could pay for them, no one wanted to make those vaccines available for poor children in Africa or poor children in Asia. And that came to be the starting point for what the Gates Foundation decided to focus on. Problems that affect the poorest, which will not be naturally solved by the markets. So Bill, being the person he is, he believes in the power of science and innovation. It is what allowed him to start Microsoft, turn it into one of the most successful companies ever. And his focus has always been on unlocking the power of scientific innovation and research to solve for problems that disproportionately affect the poor. The reason I'm talking about this is not to say that you need to get that wealthy to start thinking about these solutions. It's really, when you read stories, when you read articles, when you come across segments that tell you about the suffering of others, even if it's suffering you are not familiar with, we all have a choice, which is to flip the page, find something funny, look for the next viral meme, or as Bill and Melinda did in this case, we can stop, try to understand what that problem is, and find a way to engage. To me, that is the essential challenge that climate change is now posing to all of us. It's not a problem that will allow us the luxury of time to wait and decide when we want to act. If we don't start acting now, and in fact, if we didn't start acting yesterday, we are already kind of doomed. Two numbers to lay out the magnitude of the problem we are facing. One is 53 billion, the other is 0. Anyone have a guess what 53 billion is? Random guess, no marks for getting it wrong. Okay, so 53 billion tons, that's the amount of greenhouse gases spewed into the atmosphere in 2023, the last year for which we have full data. 0 is the number we need to get to by 2050 if we are to reverse the impacts of climate change. So 53 billion going down to 0 in 25 years. That is the challenge that humanity faces. If we decide to not engage on that problem, the consequences, I think, are fairly clear, right? Climate change can become irreversible. The polar ice caps very likely will be lost. The methane that is actually trapped in permafrost can potentially get unleashed. Methane is actually the most powerful greenhouse gas, a lot more than carbon dioxide, which is the biggest emitter. 53 billion, about 37 billion is carbon dioxide, 14 billion is methane. But there's enough methane in the polar ice caps and the permafrost in Siberia to dwarf the amount of carbon dioxide that is currently emitted. And methane lasts much longer. So the impacts on climate, on global warming are that much stronger. All that to say that we are pretty much getting close to a point of no return. And while it's okay for, the older folks to raise an alarm about it, the damage it's going to do is really to the world that you all, the young people, are actually going to grow up in. The best years of your lives are going to be in an environment that could potentially get more and more inhospitable. And that's why the need for an all hands on deck, or as we used to say during COVID, an all of society response has never been greater. Now, you can listen to all of this and you can get depressed. A lot of people do, right? In the face of challenges, we all look for diversions rather than face, the problem up front. But that's where I want to say that being in India at this point and being young at this juncture are possibly the most exciting and the most fulfilling time for a human being. I really wish I were 21 or 22 at this point and not 52. Because the world we are in today, just India at the time of independence, Dr. Hariharan said, right, 75 years into independence, we are now, finding our identity, we are taking off as a power. India at the time of independence had less than 20% literacy. Life expectancy was 32. Poverty rates were upwards of 80%. Today, our life expectancy is close to 70. In many states, it's actually on par with developed countries. Literacy rates, enrollment is near universal. We're still working to improve learning outcomes. The gender gap has almost been bridged. Poverty rates have declined dramatically. Now they are between 8 to 10%, depending on what statistics you believe. And many estimates are India has lifted 415 million out of poverty in the last 20 years. Which is an amazing number. That would be the third largest country in the world, 415 million people out of poverty. It's a time, therefore, of dramatic progress. What we've been able to achieve, some of the stats that Payalji reeled out, what have happened in the last few decades that her father started and what subsequently has been continued, the progress that we are making with, say, sustainable buildings. The stats are just staggering, right? The numbers when you do something right in India is amazing. The challenge is you can't leave it to the government, you can't leave it to a few people to solve these problems. It has to be an all-of-society approach. I want to talk about COVID because that was one time we saw all of society getting together. Each one of you would have stories of what you did during those few years. It was the worst of times because many of us lost near and dear ones, colleagues, family members, friends. But it was also a time when I saw the most resilience, the greatest amount of social cohesion, people coming together to solve problems for each other. Trying to arrange for food for people, migrants who had, moved out of urban areas, or for the homeless in urban areas, trying to find hospital beds for people, trying to figure out oxygen supplies for people. And everyone was trying to help in some small way. That's because we recognized the problem in front of us, recognized the crisis in front of us, and found a way to organize ourselves to do the one little thing that we could. And to me, climate change and the quest to find sustainable solutions is a similar problem. It is a problem that is affecting every one of us. It is not yet a problem that each one of us is actually working to try and solve. And that doesn't need to be the case. Whether you're a citizen, all of you are citizens of India, right? As citizens, there are actions you can take. All of you are consumers. As consumers, there are actions you can take that businesses will listen to. On your home front, as family members, there are things that you can do that can change the way people appreciate and understand these problems. And then, of course, there are organizations such as us who will try and do our own little way to contribute, obviously with other partners. So now I'm going to speak a bit about what I think each one of us can do. So starting with the Gates Foundation. Our foundation is working on a few problems related to the impacts of climate change. The biggest area where we focus our work is on agriculture. Sustainable agriculture is critical because we all need food, we all need water. That's the one thing human beings still haven't figured out how to go without. Maybe in coming years, even that will happen. But for now, every one of us needs food and water to be functional. India is now a food secure nation, but that wasn't always the case. Even till the mid-60s, we used to be dependent on imports from other countries. And what allowed us to innovate and become a food surplus nation was really investing in large-scale agriculture research and development. Many of you, I hope, have heard the name of Professor M.S. Swaminathan, who passed away last year. He was one of the greatest Indians of this past century, one of the greatest human beings, I'd say, because he undertook research that allowed us to develop high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice that dramatically improved productivity, dramatically improved annual yield, and made India a food surplus nation that is not only capable of feeding every citizen, but is also now the biggest exporter of these grains globally. But climate change can actually threaten all of that. We are dependent on rain for agriculture. India has 17% of the world's population, but only 4% of the global water resources. And because of the variability of rainfall, that can easily compromise our ability to be food secure. But the reason I believe that's not going to happen is because the government of India, many of the national agriculture research universities working in partnership with the CGIAR are already looking to solve these problems. Our labs in India, the government's labs in India, have developed varieties of rice and wheat which can withstand elevated temperatures. There are varieties of rice today that can withstand floods and droughts in the same season. So, whereas 10 years or 20 years ago, if you had either a drought or a flood, you would have lost an entire rice crop. Now you have conventionally bred. So these are not like GMOs, right? I know everyone is scared of GMO and has concerns about GMO. So none of this is about GMOs. India does not allow GM foods, and that is a national policy. But this is conventional breeding. You have varieties of rice now available that are being grown by Indian farmers that can withstand flood, including being underwater for 14 days, and that can also withstand drought without compromising productivity. And that is possible because of the research that our scientists have done. We are now working on varieties of millet that can actually grow at higher productivity with less water. Millet is a very hardy crop, and that can also be grown when temperatures go high. And these are some of the kinds of projects that we are actually trying to support because we believe the research in India can actually also be critical to solve global needs. So it's the power of innovation focused on problems that are going to affect everyone, resulting in solutions that are actually free to scale up through the public system at minimal cost to everyone. So it's effectively the geophone, not the iPhone. You want something that is accessible to everyone that has good technology, not really the bells and whistles version that is only available to a few. So that is how we, the Gates Foundation, think about science and innovation. Another area that we focus on, which was discussing with Mr. Suresh, sustainable sanitation. Another human need. All of us have to go to the loo. We have, again, not figured a way to forget a day, even a few hours without going to the loo. And, human waste is one of the biggest contaminants of the environment and surface water. A lot of diseases that exist in the environment are really because of that contamination. Now, how can you leverage the advances in engineering, material science, chemistry to come up with toilets or come up with solutions that can treat and dispose of human waste safely without it contaminating water and without it contaminating the environment? So this is a program we've been running since 2011 called the Reinvent the Toilet Challenge. And the premise is very simple. The pour flush toilet, which is what all of us are familiar with, that technology was invented about 200 years ago. Since then, there have been so many scientific innovations, none of which have been applied to try and improve how toilets function and how they capture and treat human waste. So we put out a call for global innovators from universities or companies across the world to develop technologies that can capture, treat, dispose of human waste safely, can recover whatever useful resources that there are in human waste and make it available. If you do a Google search for Bill Gates drinks poop water, you'll probably find this video from a few years ago where Bill Gates on TV drank a glass of water which was essentially recovered from human waste. It went through obviously a pretty sophisticated refining process, so it was safe to drink, but it is possible to recover water. It is possible to recover soil fortificants, because human waste can also be a good fertilizer if appropriately treated. So that's another example of how our foundation is looking at innovations that can result in a more sustainable environment. Now, these are things that we have chosen to do. There are so many other problems in the world. My question, my challenge, my request to all of you is, can you think of that one thing that you can do, or that one thing where you can try and focus the energy of people who can come up with solutions to act and start acting now? The power to have that kind of collective pressure on the political leadership, on business, that really rests with each of you, the citizens of India. If we sit back and wait for progress to come to us, it may come, but it may come too late. Like I said, 53 billion, 0, 25 years. That is the challenge that we face as a civilization. And we need to do it in a way that does not compromise our ability to provide livelihoods and economic opportunity to our population. We are not a rich country yet. There are some of us who are incredibly rich, but there are vast multitudes who are poor. So you cannot expect them to give up the pathway to prosperity so there isn't a problem for others. We have to make sure that there is a pathway for a better future for everyone, but we need to find new ways to do it. We can wait for the rich countries to start helping us, but just look at what's happening in many rich countries around the world. I don't know about you, but I'm not really looking to them for solutions. I'd much rather focus on Indian ingenuity, Indian innovation, and what it can do. You've all grown up in a world where mobile phones existed, right? I've seen the world before that. And most of you probably use Aadhaar and UPI as a fact of life. I was working at a time when, paper-based money transactions was the only norm, right? Was the only way to go. When India started on the digital payment stack, the number of articles that came out in global media saying, oh, it can never be done. It has never been done before, not going to succeed. When Aadhaar was about to be rolled out, the BBC, the New York Times, the Financial Times, everyone was, oh, this failed in the UK, this failed in Germany, this failed in so-and-so country. India is never going to pull it off. But guess what? India did pull it off, and we pulled it off for 1.4 billion people. And now we are taking those solutions to other countries. Right now there are 25 countries around the world that have signed up to take on Indian digital solutions, the so-called digital public infrastructure. So this norm that we need to wait for the West to innovate to solve our problems is actually out the window. The world solutions and innovations can emerge from here. They can be cutting edge, the best solutions in the world, but they will only emerge if we decide that, we want to work on them. And to me, that's where you guys, the youth, are our only hope. You are not, prejudiced or under the yoke of past notions of this is how change happens. Many of us, the older folks, I think we are limited by what we have seen. You are the leapfrog generation. And to me, it's essential that you leapfrog and solve these problems for the earth to survive and thrive, not just our country. And to me, that's why I feel being young today is the greatest advantage. Being young in India is an even bigger advantage, but it only turns into something real if you're able to marshal your creative energies and potential and start taking those 1, 2, 3 actions every day that can allow you to, do something different in your personal behavior. Second, find ways to engage in fact-based conversations with your family. Whoever, your parents, your cousins, your friends, because the risks of mis and disinformation have never been greater. Social media has kind of made that a much bigger risk. But facts and numbers and data mean a lot more if they come from trusted sources, which is why you talking to your trusted networks, even if it's 5 people, will have a lot more impact than, say, the Prime Minister or some corporate leader dispensing those same facts. Because the kind of credibility that you have with your immediate family, your trusted networks, is the greatest. So that's another thing I would request you to have on a daily basis. Keep up the conversation, make it fact-based. The third is, please try to understand the science of what is driving climate change and the science of the solutions. By science, I do not mean Western science alone. A lot of what we have, in India through our traditional knowledge, those are based on the principles of science. So let's not discriminate against that. But holding everything up to the same level of rigor of scientific proof, which is demonstrating that some things work and testing it out in real life settings as opposed to just taking people's word. To me, that is the scientific temper that each one of us needs to try and imbibe if we are to work on solutions that can make a difference. So that's the third thing. And the fourth is, please never give up hope. If you give up hope, if Mahatma Gandhi had given up hope in the 20th year of when he was striving for independence, or the 25th year, or the 30th year, we wouldn't be where we are today. Depending on when you date the start of India's independence movement, it either took 60 years or it took 40 years, but nothing shorter than that. The reason we got independence is because, our leaders then and the Indians of then did not give up hope and were focused on what we needed to achieve. So to me, this is another such time where we don't have the luxury of turning around and giving up hope or looking for answers from elsewhere. We have to join battle. It is a tough battle, absolutely no two ways about it. But it is a battle that can be won because all of human progress is a testament to what the human spirit can achieve once it decides to sit down and solve problems. And so with that, my last line to you is, please look at the world that you want to grow up in the world that you want to inherit as something that you can shape for yourselves. But you can only shape it if you take charge and start engaging in solving those problems today. You know, one less hour of social media, one less hour of entertainment could be an hour spent on trying to identify a solution to, you know, the myriad of problems that we face. If you start doing that collectively, that's, you know, hundreds of hours. If you start leveraging your social networks, that's thousands of hours. If you start using the networks that partners like the PJMT have, that's, you know, millions of hours. And that's how you have a snowballed way to a better future. So please consider this appeal to you. The future of the world is literally in your hands. So all the best. Thank you for this opportunity. I am sorry if this sounded pessimistic. I just wanted to lay out the challenges of this time. But think of 100 years ago, okay? Most of the world was colonized. We were between two great world wars. The US was on the verge of one of the worst recessions ever. But people came through that, and we had 70, 80 years of the greatest periods of productivity and prosperity for the world. So tough times, you know, also are the greatest opportunities for transformation. And I think that's where we are at now. So please look at the transformative potential of what each one of you can do. Thank you so much, and all the very best with your lives.
One more round of applause for Hari Menon. You know, he started off saying, I have very little to offer when I have a wonderful person to sort of succeed me, and look at what he did to you. And he has left two things with you. One, he says, you know, you have read it in many different places. The future lies in your hands. I must also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Kamal Mittal, who has just joined us. Mittalji. Okay, no, he's not. He's a little hard of hearing. He's a wonderful man. He's also part of the governing council. Maybe you should ask him to come and sit in the front. The other thing he did to you, apart from, he left two numbers with you, 53 billion tons and 0. And in 25 years. Does it seem like it's possible for us to do it?
Yes.
Is that a very vehement yes?
Mark is from the first row.
All of you, we don't want the first row to speak. Yes? Yes, yes. The other thing he said is that you, all of you here, barring the first two rows, are the leapfrog generation. Now listen to CNR, Padma Shri Raghavendran. He comes from Chennai, as I told you. He's done billions of square feet. This morning I'm saying, sir, you must have done about 1.5 billion square feet. He's smiling. And I know that it's a very hugely understated number for the number of buildings he's architected in his life of about 6 decades of practice. Over to you.
I just started. That's okay. I hope you didn't see some of the warning signs. Please don't see it. I'll see. So nice of you to invite me. Very grateful to you for this opportunity to be amongst.
Use the mic for the recording purpose.
No, okay, I'll take it. Yeah. Okay, I'll start to do this ID, yeah.
Why don't we give him one of those mics? Please give him that mic.
On कर दो दबा के रखना.
Yeah.
And Sina, can you stand this way so that the light does not? You should stand
Yeah, okay, yeah. Dear Paiji, you're doing a great job. You're doing better than Dr. Jain, I should say. But really, I mean, it's the biggest compliment that one can give to a child of a great man. Dr. Jain is such a memorable technologist, but is also a humanist at heart. He has a great combination of these two. I have had some very interesting personal interactions with him, not today, but as early as 1995, 96, thereabouts. I'll talk about it a little later. But it is great for you to have made this a very vibrant, dynamic organization. You're able to get so many thinkers and doers to come and talk to you, just like the one we just had. It's absolutely mind-boggling, sir. Absolutely inspired a whole set of students. I'm sure they'll carry this tale to the classmates who missed it, and I'm sure when you put it out in the YouTube and so on, it'll be a great hit. In fact, I was so impressed. I must also admit that I also want to be 21. Suresh, of course, joined me, and Chandra, of course, is already 21. I am also honored to be with Suresh ji and Chandra ji. We are the most articulate and dynamic crusaders of green building movement in India. It's not only green in the sense just building, but they're concerned about every resource that buildings consume, and what buildings consume is actually what we consume in totality. If you consume steel, you're consuming so many things that behind that. If you're consuming any particular material or material, you're again, it's just spreading net wide. So when you do green building, you're doing it much bigger than just building. It goes far beyond. So that way they're great leaders, and it's a very great opportunity for me to talk to them. Of course, Suresh blew me away. I wish my office hadn't given you such a long thing. You made it so good, and please don't believe half of it. Now, coming to this topic, particularly seeing so many students and faculty, I had to, like what Mr. Menon said, I have to sort of think on the feet and modify what I prepared earlier. What I would do is, I'd like to present to you some data, which you could of course get it from anywhere else, but I thought it would be good for all students to see, unless you understand data. In fact, this is something that architects miss, and the architectural education misses, data and communication. This clearly came out in Mr. Menon's speech also, in a different way. But data and collaboration are two vital things that architects should start learning. The school should start teaching them and encourage them to do it on their own. Nobody can teach you how to collaborate, but it must come from within. And it must come as a group action. And the problem ahead of it, you should first of all know. If you're talking of climate change, global warming, gas emissions, the extent 53,025, remember that numbers and change it every year after year. But this is very important, so that's what I thought I'll build upon it. So I'll first go through a series of slides which tell you where we are globally. And you should also understand that India is not an isolated country solving our own problems in a very closed-door way. Maybe it was a couple of decades ago, but today India has just knocked off Britain out of the biggest GDP, total GDP value, and we are knocking at Japan. Soon, India will become the third largest economy in the world. And Indian human resources are globally felt today. And there is not a single country which doesn't look to India for a particular kind of resources or particular kind of problem-solving capacities. And when the whole nation of countries want it, why are we not making advantage of that? We should stop looking at government for everything. There's a lot that we can do ourselves. And therefore, I thought, as architects, when we talk of this, we have to prepare in a completely different manner than what we've been doing this so. So this part, I'll come to as a second part of my delivery of speech. And I would like to really call upon some of the old memories that I have, some of the instances that I faced, and how do you escalate it? How do you find solutions, and how do you, come out, convert the disadvantage into an advantage? I'll talk about it in the next part. To start with, see this climate and resilience. See, this is really what we need at our is resilience. And how do we overcome this climate? It's going to be a tremendous cost on humans due to warming climate. And we all know that the big governments are going to huddle year after year at some place or other, and they try to hammer out solutions and come to commonalities in terms of what you could do to reduce global reductions, global emissions, and also try to have a reduced temperature and, if possible, reverse the trend, or slow or reverse the trend. But these have been really not making much progress. And the recent setback that we had puts greater challenges on us. That is one of the most industrialized and the greatest industrial power, economic power, has pulled the plug out of this movement. We all know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, the students should know this. US has recently declared they'll get out of the Paris Agreement, they'll get out of the commitments made to reduce the gas emissions, and they've pulled out the benefits that the government gave for electronic vehicle production. They've given, in fact, in their own word, if I can requote, the policy has become drill baby drill. Drill for what? Drill for gas and oil. And this is a time when we should be doing less. And now suddenly the Paris Agreement is gone, emission control is gone, and no drilling and gas is going to be in operation. And so this is a major setback. And so this puts bigger challenge on the collective actions that we need to take. And 2024, as we'll see soon, is the hottest year ever recorded since they recorded the temperature in different regions. India is particularly vulnerable, and because already we are buffeted by many other problems, and this is an additional challenge placed on us. Big question is, are the professionals involved in the build industry, can they evolve a system of doing what they can in this new and unprecedented role? And are we preparing? Who should do what? These are the issues that we should look at. See, look, this is a chart I mentioned, that every year, almost every month, we see some major catastrophe happening somewhere or other in the world. And this is going to bring us into challenges in terms of huge risks. Yeah. Wait?
Slide changer.
It's okay, I'll do it behind. Yeah, okay. See, one issue is already discussed, the food chain disruption. Then the impact on health and well-being, and vanishing forest, challenge on water, and national resource being overused, And what it eventually does is, so what the people have discovered is that it decreases the national productivity and cognitive skills in schools. This is going to be a big hit for the future younger generations, with the schools already being what they are, to get into cognitive skills being affected by this. Now, therefore, my take on the situation is that with all these human activities causing the world temperatures to go up and posing serious other problems, the impact of 700 million people being dragged back into extreme poverty by 2050, if we don't act now, what are we as collective profession? I'm not just talking about architects, but I'm talking about everybody who's involved in the built environment, the engineers, including the government. How are we preparing for this? Is the current system conducive to extracting the creative design that we all pride ourselves about? The question is the current system valid enough? Going back. Yeah, I just run through some of these slides. See, this is actually the 1.5 degree challenge and how the temperatures and gas emissions are related, and how the global countries and creating per capita emissions. In fact, India's situation is that despite being labeled as a big polluter, the per capita spending, per capita emissions in India is almost very, very low because of huge population. But the burden that it lays on us is humongous. And the financing that was arranged for green financing, which was agreed globally, has also never come to a conclusion. And even the last COP in Baku has resulted in a setback. And what was targeted and what was promised, there is no relation. There's a big, huge gap. And this is the situation that is going to be worsened as years go by, and particularly when the students here today are going to be in the prime of your life, in the prime of your career. You're going to be blossoming into professionals who are tackling the problems of the day. It is not a problem of today that you're going to be solving, it's a problem of tomorrow that you're going to be solving. And what does our schools do? They help us to, are the schools prepared? The colleges prepared? Is the Council of Architects prepared? The program? Is the profession caring for it? These three elements, these institutions, education institutions, Council of Architecture, and the profession itself, the practicing profession itself. There are, of course, brilliant efforts by select institutions or select policies of government or select architects doing excellent work. But the whole body of architecture, whole body of the education institutions, are they inculcating a curiosity to understand what the problem is and how we are going to be functioning in 20 years from now? So this is going to be hugely challenging for us, and therefore we have to understand that these are the government pledges that have been made, and if India, look at the Indian population, different cities are as populous as some of the European countries. One city is itself equal to some country in Europe. That study is also revealing that our problem is multiplied by urbanization and is multiplied by the resource crunch for developing a city. Therefore, the pledge has been made in terms of what we could achieve by 2030 and what we could achieve by 2070. Now, 2030 is not far away. In 2070, the promise is that net zero, India will become net zero by 2070. That's 53, whatever figure pertaining to India will become zero by 2070. In spite of the challenge that we have, how is it going to be done? So there have been some route maps laid at all levels, which focuses on renewables, material circularity, and then natural climate sustaining farming. In fact, there's a new new terminology, like green food. We've heard of green buildings, but there is a green food coming up, which is less dependent on, less carbon emitting. In fact, there are some foods which absorb carbon and make, give the nutrition for people who eat it. And there's again materiality. This is where I think we should we have methods to see, and even the government's target in terms of what are the important areas that we need to do. Green buildings and green infrastructure becomes highly placed in high society. Now this is I wanted to just run through this to understand the impact globally in terms of the temperature, carbon emissions, and water security, air pollution, loss of life. All this is there on one hand. On the other hand, we have these architects, and we get trained in a manner that had its roots at a time when architects were building to suit their minimal life. I mean, they responded to the climate, they responded to nature, and from there we moved quite far away, but yet making a statement related to our time and our context. But this gives rise to, it's quite fascinating to see how the ideals and inspirations in architecture have evolved over time. But still, the crucial thing is each one is a reflection of the philosophy of the times that we live in terms of technology, the economy, the societal requirements, and so on. Now, this is an important thing in the sense that what the young architectural graduates idealized at one time and what they are idealizing today. Today, yes, several schools have taken initiative to introduce green sustainability into their curriculum and into this. And this is where I want to just go back and see an architect's mind should be not a closed mind, should be an open mind, should be willing to accept ideas from all the places. Therefore, what I do is I do shift from this to some of my personal experiences and some of my anecdotal experiences that I have in solving challenges. See, as an architect who passed out in 1965, a completely different time altogether. It is not, we did not have all the conveniences of today in terms of communication and so on, but it was a time when there was an extreme material inadequacy, and in the profession, every day there was a challenge in terms of even basic things. But from there, we moved across today, and today we have, it passed through a phase when overconsumption was actually banned. If somebody gives a statistics to say that in China, in the developed countries, cement consumption per capita was going up, it was shown a sign of progress. But today, if you say my cement consumption is going up, my steel consumption is going up, it is not such a good thing to say. Because cement and steel are two major building products that consume enormous amount of power. And what are they doing? There's tremendous amount of research going on, which is creating green cement and green concrete. Now, these are new technologies that are coming in. Already, there's a glass factory near Chennai. It's a French company. They produce green glass. In fact, glass again is a huge consumer of power to the manufacturing process. So they have made this research. You find that. Sorry about this, yeah. By data, what I mean is, if an architect is designing a building today, he should at least know what is he using to the building, his solution of design, what impact it has on the society. Yes, there's a client, he pleases his requirement. Patron pleasing has always been a traditional way of architects working. You please a patron, who's a client. It happened from time immemorial. Whether it's the architect who was designing the Versailles Palace, or whether the architect who was designing the Stonehenge, I mean, he had somebody in mind and his work should please that person. That concept should now get enlarged. Who is the client today? Client today is not the person who is sitting across from you. The client today is the nation, is the planet, is the resources that is available to you. And you must please them. And you must make sure that you are not exhausting one to please another person. And this requires extreme collaboration. And we should not, for instance, in architecture schools, I've seen them taking school children for rural studies. They go to rural villages, they study the building pattern, they study the occupancy patterns, they study the poverty patterns, and they study the social hierarchy, they study all that, and finally come out with a form of the village existence, and they try to do some improvement so that the basic health and viability of the village will survive. I mean, this is a course that every architecture school does, so that you understand you don't design only for the cities or urban areas, but you also go down and design. But how frequently are we exposed to a sociologist coming and telling us what is village form, what is village structure, what is the human interaction in villages? Are we exposed to an economist who comes and tells us what is the livelihood, what is the earning capacity, what is the spending capacity? How does it? So it's a mix of all this. The sociologist, the economist, and the architect together only can solve these problems. If you see in urban design today, urban design is no longer one man's creation. You say so-and-so designed the Paris city. Today it's not one person who is designing a city. It's a multitude of people who are designing cities. If you design a large challenging project, it's not one person who's designing. Even the architect would like to call themselves as master architects and the master of the team. I say so and therefore it does is no longer true. And that mindset is required because architect is a deciding factor, but he leans on several other inputs from other people. They don't really get a comprehensive product that comes out of it. I'll just get back to some instances. One instance that comes to mind as chronologically I'll tell you. In sometime in the year 2000, or slightly before 2000, we were designing a large IT park, information technology park in Chennai. It's called Tidal Park, and Tidal Park was a effort by the Tamil Nadu government to put up the infrastructure to develop IT infrastructure in Chennai. That is the time when IT investments in India from multinational companies was coming in. They're all looking at foothold to establish and make use of the Indian talent that is available, either as a back office or a development center, whatever it was. It was a vibrant time when every city developed. And here, this is a state government project, and state government wanted to outbeat what was in Bangalore and what was in Hyderabad. That is the range of comparison that they're doing. As an architect, the state government's instruction to me was that you build the biggest and the best, which meant huge footprint and huge facilities. IT companies will not come unless the infrastructure is good. For instance, if I just tell you the shift of power consumption of IT buildings, there's one time when industries, a car factory, for instance, in the Middle East, a couple of car factories, automotive factories, a car company would require, supposing 10 megawatts of power to operate. No building in those days would require not even 1 or half a megawatt was the biggest building. But when IT companies came, IT companies started guzzling more than automotive factories. That's the highest. So the buildings became big guzzlers of power. And therefore the challenge to us was, they put a capacity of building which went beyond. I'm talking in front of Ms. Java, please refer me to enter your field. But as an architect, I had a role to play. I can't say I'm an architect. I'll only look at, the functionalities, I'll only look at the forms, I'll only look at this. But you have to go look deep beyond into everything else. Our challenge was 12,000 tons of refrigeration, TR, they call it TR, tons of refrigeration was required for that building. 12,000 tons TR before 2020 was a humongously high figure. Now to support that, the capacity of power that we need to supply, I may sound not like an architect talking about power and TR and all that, but please understand, this is the language that we will have to be speaking in future. You can't say, look, TR is not my concern, okay, megawatt is not my concern. Then, nobody, the others will do your job. Others will do your job, you will be jobless. That should not happen to architects. So therefore, we have to be innovative about it. Now, I am an architect, I am not trained in any of these fields, but I had the fortune of going through certain education and certain training that I had earlier in my life, which made me aware that you must be curious about it, you must know the fundamentals of it. In the college I studied, IIT Kharagpur, I was fortunate to study there, and later in Berkeley. In IIT Kharagpur, we had an excellent engineering department, and they taught architecture schools, architecture students for structure and services and so on. They taught us in a manner that no differential equations entered teaching of electricity, no humongous heat load calculations came into our field of study when you do air conditioning, but the principles of it. The structural man will teach you a structure. You must understand if a structure is loaded, what happens to the structure. You don't need to know how to calculate the area of seal, but you must know intrinsically which areas will come under compression, which will be tension, where there will be shear, where there will be torsion. Because when you design a large cantilever as an architect, you must know the impact of that cantilever on your building. And when you design a long span beam, functionality requires you to design a long span beam. You must find innovative ways of designing a long span beams. So using this knowledge taught to me to be curious, to talk to people, to understand other fields, other specialities, we went into it. I personally went into it in depth and found that for 12,000 TR, I had to go for a 110 kV substation in an 8-acre plot. I'll never be able to do it. The 110 kV substation will take half the site. Where do I build? Therefore, I had to find a way of reducing the tonnage. If you reduce the tonnage, you reduce the electrical input, you reduce the area, then you can build what it is. So it's a question of optimizing and balancing all these inputs that come into it. This led us to a situation where we thought beyond the box, and I came across certain manufacturers in France who are making what's called a thermal energy storage system. It's a way of using the power of AC to be cooled into a ball and release it later whenever you ask for it. So there were eutectic balls which had some chemical mixed in water to seal, and that was cooled. And that was released during the peak daytime. By using this, we were able to achieve the same capacity of air conditioning in half, 6,000 TR. And 6,000 TRs required lower grade of electric incoming power. At 33 kV, the job was done. And the interesting thing here, the important connection I would like Prem to understand is, when this scheme was presented by us to the government, it was a government project, the secretary of the department who was doing this said, look, it's too technical. You are asking me for approval, I cannot give you an approval. You bring a specialist who can come and endorse it or not endorse it. You bring a specialist, it's your job. If the specialist comes and tells you this is okay, I will go for it. So the only person I thought was Dr. Jain. He was invited to come to Chennai. We spoke to the secretary. We had a discussion with him. Dr. Jain said, this is the only solution that you can do. Otherwise, he said, bring seawater. If you bring seawater, we'll find a way of converting, like a desalination. We'll find a way of giving you a chilled water plant. So finally, the scheme was approved. So Dr. Jain sensitized not only us, the architectural community and the government communities on the importance of being innovative about the whole business of resource management. So I'm indeed grateful to Dr. Jain from that time onwards, and I thought I'll use this opportunity to highlight to you this. Yeah, okay. This is in terms of architects working with other disciplined engineers. You are never a loner, you are always a team member. Yes, you may design, but you're still a member of the team leader. This is a small instance I'll mention about the structural issue that we have. Every single day as an architect you will face a structural issue. You cannot say a structural issue to somebody else, go ask him. You cannot do that. You must be able to tell the structural engineer, look, this is what I want, this is how you can do it. You don't need to calculate, do all these calculations to do this, but you must know how the structure will behave. We had an opportunity to place an 18-meter cantilever in a stadium that we did. 18-meter cantilever, my solution, this is again a state government project, personally monitored by Chief Minister. Chief Minister, I went and gave the Chief Minister a solution with a steel structure. She said, Jayalalitha was the Chief Minister, she said, I don't want steel. It brings an industrial look. Do it in concrete or any other material, but something permanent material. So I had to do an 18-meter cantilever. A conventional solution would have given me a huge beam and huge thing, which becomes counterproductive. You put a huge beam, it will deflect more. To stop deflection, you add more weight, it will become more heavy, it will deflect more. So there is no stoppage, where there is no tipping point. So we studied a normal plate, because you see people like Narvi, who has done that Rome station. I was inspired by that building. He had done a shell roof with a very thin concrete element. We said, why can't you apply the thin concrete element? The solution was, our collaborative effort with the structural engineers showed that if you give a form to that thin plate, 100 mm thin plate, for a 60 feet cantilever, nobody will believe it. But it was possible because we twisted the plate to a shape, which gave it an intrinsic strength. So the derivation of this plate shape is an architect's idea, not a structural engineer's idea. In the Council of Architecture, if you read the book, it tells you to offer comprehensive service. Comprehensive service meaning that architects do not only architecture, but all other associated disciplines. Now this associated discipline, we are not getting trained enough. We are not getting exposed to the people who do. I was fortunate in Kharagpur, I was able to do it. But given the other situation, when institutions suffer from even straight architectural faculty being a problem, how do you get hold of inspiring structural engineer or inspiring mechanical engineer to come and teach architects? Dr. Jain was doing it in Delhi School of Architecture. He taught sensitized so many students who are today some of the leaders in green buildings today. So this is a kind of teacher training, teacher innovation, and open the world. Open the world. See, look around. No subject is not yours. You can't exclude anything. Everything is part of your learning. You learn about architecture, you must learn about materiality. In fact, today and in future, materiality is going to help us solve this problem. Use materials which have less embedded carbon. Now I asked one person who came for a job in my office, I asked him, do you know what's an embedded carbon? He had no idea. And then, in fact, the faculty of the particular college I knew, so I asked him, don't they even hear the term embedded carbon? And he said, no, sir, we don't teach all that. No, we don't teach all that, as if it's something that's prohibited from teaching. Now, it's not to cast aspersion on teacher or anybody, but the system that I'm looking at. The teacher itself should get exposed to what is happening around the world. It's again in the architecture college. We talk of passive design. You cannot stop with passive design. Passive design is okay till last century, but for the next century, you require passive design plus intervention. That intervention knowledge is missing today. How do you intervene in a building? How do you be inventive at interventional treatment, interventional solutions, in solution finding? So this is where I think the three elements, the council, the education institutions, and the practice. For that matter, the practice, I would say, is the worst of the three. The practice is the worst because, there are institutions, there are people who get opportunity to learn. After all, institutions teach you for good times or ideal times. But you don't, by opportunity, you may get to learn about other specialities or if you're interested. But there must be an element of beginning in the schools to be able to be an all-round architect, not a master architect. We are not the Corbusiers or we are not Frank Lloyd Wrights anymore. That's the architect business is gone. Tomorrow, you're an architect, you are also working with 10 other specialists. So this is the message I wanted to convey to you. Thank you. Can you close this?
We take it to the fireside chat. Before that, I will request Mr. Kanwaljit Java sir to please come on to the stage. And we have been holding competitions in the colleges pan India, and we'll be announcing the prizes over here right now. And for the students, the prizes will be reaching you in your colleges only. There was no prize distribution happening over here. I believe few students are here who are the winners. I will request them to stand up when their names are announced. And of all the colleges who have participated, I am very happy to announce that few of the faculties who are present over here, Dr. Vanita Ahuja, Vivek Sabharwal Sahab, Rachna Rajpal ji, Siddharth Jain sir, Mohit Bansal Sahab. So thank you for all your association and participations. So big round of applause for the colleges. So we start with the prizes. Sir, you have the list. You want to announce from here.
Greetings to everyone and congratulations to all young ones. I'm supposed to announce now.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, there are 5 category awards. The A category is Revive and Thrive Green Challenge. And the first prize goes to student Shivani Lady Irwin College, New Delhi. The second prize is student Anurag Jai Singh, ABS Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Congratulations. And the third prize is student Muskan Agarwal, International Institute of Fashion Technology. The second category was e-waste material recycling installations. First prize goes to student Brij Bandhu, Girl NIFT, Patna. The second prize goes to student Saloni Agarwal, Lady Irwin College, New Delhi. The third prize is student Deepika Dwivedi, APJ Institute of Technology, School of Architecture and Planning, Greater Noida. The third category is the Eco-Friendly Products Challenge. The first prize goes to student Balaji LS, student Stubin and student Sriram RICS School of Built Environment.
So students are here also. The students are here.
Congratulations to you. The third prize is student Himanshu Balyan, student Maisha Khan. The fourth category is virtual run. The first prize goes to student Akash Kumar, APJ Institute of Technology, School of Architecture and Planning, Greater Noida. Congratulations. Second prize goes to student Aniket Chauhan, ABS Engineering College, Ghaziabad. The third prize is Himanshu Balyan, ABS Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Congratulations. The reel on sustainability. The first prize goes to student Yashika Jain, Axis Institute of Architecture, Kanpur.
That's from Kanpur, sir. The institute is in Kanpur.
The second prize goes to student Kamboj and Reva Singh, APJ Institute of Technology, School of Architecture and Planning. Congratulations. The third prize is student Vanshika, APJ Institute of Technology, School of Architecture. All the very best. There was one more competition which we would like to announce, the debate competition on green building, built environment. And the winner is student Gaurav Tanwar, DTU College, New Delhi. One last award, Green Insta Quiz Online. The winners will be announced online. PJMT Insta will handle that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the... May I request Dr. Hariharan to please come onto the stage for fireside chat now.
For the chat, right? All right. How many of you want to ask a few questions of these two distinguished men who have come here today and who spoke to us? Raise your hands. One hand goes up. Anyone wants to actually ask any questions of Hari Menon sir or of CNR sir? No. You're afraid to ask? You want to ask? Do you want to at least, okay, another last try I will do on a raise of hand. Do you want to listen to the two of them as we sit and chat and ask them a few questions? Okay, 1, 2. Slowly it's going up. All right. So can I invite both Hari Menon and CNR to come up? Well, I'll give you an idea of what we will do. We are hoping to have you ask the questions, but I will try and see if I can ask a few questions first on your behalf. Okay. Any questions at all from any of you? Mithil Saab, you wanted to ask. A mic can go up to him, please. Can it? Here. Anyone has got a mic? No.
Sure. Thanks.
A few days ago, Mr. Bill Gates cautioned and said that there is a 10 or 15% probability that there will be another pandemic in the next 4 years. Would you elaborate a little bit on that?
It's on, I think.
No, thank you for the question. And first, congratulations to all the students who won, prizes in the competitions. I'm hoping they'll be like from both the people who won as well as others in the audience. Just going on, ongoing interest to come up with solutions. To me, the main part of what I tried to say in the beginning was, please join the challenge of coming up with the innovations that we need for our future. So, sir, this is a theme Mr. Gates has been speaking on for several years. I think the 10-15% chance is just like an indicative estimate. I think the main point he's trying to say is, just given what's happening with, the growing footprint of human civilization and how we are getting more and more into, the last remaining forested areas of, the planet, and, there are stronger, human-animal interactions because of, again, growing consumption. The potential for pathogens to cross over from animal hosts into humans, the probability of that increases. So I think that's what he's saying, is that, right now in the US you have a very large bird flu outbreak that's actually been happening for over a year. And in the last year, now about 60 cases of that bird flu transferring to humans has actually taken place. And about a few, I think 4 to 6 deaths have also taken place. Now, that is concerning, but what would be even more concerning is if any of that turned into human-to-human transmission. So again, it's that dynamic of, as humans engage more with, the forested areas, we'll come in touch with pathogens that we've not faced till now. As, industrial agriculture and other such methods continue, we may create conditions, with the overuse of antibiotics, etc., for more drug-resistant strains to develop, which could then potentially transfer to humans. So that's the risk he's talking about. I think it's a good
But if you go back to his question, if you go back to Mr. Mithil's question, one of the reasons that COVID happened was the challenge of sanitation and pathogens that you also talked about. What can we do on the sanitation of the future? Because it seems to be also defining civilization itself in some ways. Are you doing any such work at some seminar levels at the Gates Foundation? I know you're working on, by the way, they're also working on what are called FSTPs, and he will explain what this means.
Yeah, no, thanks for adding that dimension. So there's two elements to it. One is, ways to improve surveillance, and this is something that happened during COVID, to, sample sewage samples from across the world and identify what all pathogens are in circulation in a particular area. That gives you a good sense of whether there are, potential outbreak types, pathogens in circulation. So that's a surveillance element which can allow us to get a sense if there is something that we need to be concerned of. But to your question on, safe sanitation, yeah, so we are working on, like I said, the reinvented toilet, which is how can you capture, treat, and dispose of human waste on site without requiring it to go into underground sewerage pipes, without the need for large-scale, sewage treatment plants. We're also working on, like you said, FSTPs, which are fecal sludge treatment plants that can be deployed at relatively shorter, smaller scale, and in places that already have dense urban populations without the need for large-scale underground networks. So using, decentralized pits and creating emptying networks.
Okay. Can I ask you another question? Just a raise of hand is all we want. How many of you live in apartments? 1, 2, 3. Okay, now, not very many, interestingly. How many of you live in apartments which have over 200 flats? Okay. If I were to take only 200 flats, and then we will go back to Hari sir or to CNR sir for an answer. If I have, say, 200 flats, if I were to take only, let us say, 1,000 people, the chairman of the National Building Code is sitting here and he will say 5 people as an average to a household, right? If I take 1,000 people and I took only, let us say, 150 liters, should I say, as LPCD, as consumption per person, that's 600 liters into 1,000 people. That's 600,000 liters per day. Did I get that right? Any of you? Did I get any number wrong there, please? 200 flats, 5 people, 1,000. 1,000 into 600, 600,000, correct? Now, if I multiply that for 360 days in a year, that 6 lakh will become something like 210 million liters. Should you let this water outside of your apartment, or should you treat it yourself? What do you think? Raise of hands. Should you solve this problem yourself or leave it to the government to solve it? Government to solve. Okay. Anyone else who wants to say we should solve it? Wow. 1. How many more? Yeah. Okay. We should solve it. Okay. Now, if there were solutions for you to take up in some simple ways, do you think your resident welfare association or the society in your apartment will agree? No, absolute no. Now we will ask Hari sir as to what he told you, that every day you must do something incremental as individuals who can bring a difference or can make a difference. What do you think, Hari sir, they should do?
So it's easy to sit up here and preach, so this is the easiest part. Actually doing it is much more challenging. But to me, everything starts with, can you start the conversation? Can you, get the facts like Dr. Hari mentioned here, and talk to, 1 or 2 decision makers in your association to explain the benefits of it. You'll probably get kicked out the first few times, right? So which is why resilience is important. Change only happens if you're willing to face failure, right? So to me, finding the places to start those conversations and keep at it is how change happens. And for that, you need to be educated, which is why I go back to please understand the facts. In the talk sir gave, he used charts from this website. I would recommend each one of you go to it, ourworldindata.org. ourworldindata.org. Please look it up. It is some of the most interesting facts about the world, and it's in a very searchable, organizable format. So there is an app also for that. Alongside all the other apps that you have on your phone, please try and download our World in Data and keep it. I promise you, it's one of the best ways to keep yourself aware of stats, which will allow you to have these conversations in a meaningful manner.
I'll tell you one more thing. When you go to that blessed man who is the secretary or some pompous president of the society in your apartment, now he's not going to listen to you. I learned something from a man here called Devendra Singh. Are you here, Devendra? Yes, sir. Yeah, can you stand up so they can see you? He's a colleague of ours at the trust. One day he tells me over a telephone call, sir, every time I get a no, it gives me more energy to go for the next meeting where I will get another double no, So sometimes, like Hari sir said, it is good.
It's on.
It is good, yes. Before you add, it is good to get a no. The other thing you must add is this. I told you that for 200 flats, 1,000 people, it comes to some 200 million liters. Another way of looking at it is, for every 100,000 liters, you can save up to 600 CO2 tons. You can come to me later and I'll tell you how. And you go and tell them that, sir, my apartment can become a low-carbon apartment. Is that going to be interesting enough for your president or secretary?
Yeah, 52,
Yes, sir.
See, I had a recent problem. There were a lot of rains in Chennai, and where I live, there are a lot of trees, old trees. So they all fell down one after another. They all fell, and they cut all the internet lines. All the geo network, everything was gone. No network for 2 days. No network for 2 days it's like going to hell. Today's life. So no network. So then I asked one of my colleagues in the office, what do I do? He's not a systems guy, but he's a practical guy. He said, sir, hundreds of people are facing the same problem. On top of that, the metro network which is being installed is digging up all the roads. They made a mess of all this fiber network and so on. He said, go for the dish antenna. It comes from the top, so no cutting of trees, no tree falling, no cutting of roads. And I called these guys. They say, it's humongously growing in a short time. So if people have a solution, they'll adopt it quickly. They may not be inventors, they may not be first in the line, but there are many second in the lines, third in the lines. So there must be somebody who does it first in the line and show the benefits and publicize it. You'll have a lot of people doing it. That's the theory. That everybody says, have you done it before? Can you show somewhere? You show somewhere, then you get converts.
Anyone on that? Yes, sir, please.
I think they're all looking forward to solution. Somebody has done it. They're able to. I intend that Ravinder sir, if you're able to show there are solutions available, which somebody has done it already, that's where the people go for it. And demonstrable and already done that, it's always possible to do that. For example, this particular question that you asked, would you like to take the waste, all that? But do you want the same drinking water, which is with great difficulty, to be used for washing your foot, all your toilet, for out of the 150 liters?
What if I told you, no, serious sir.
Yeah.
What if I told you that there is an apartment, 2 apartments actually, one of them has got 178 flats.
Yeah.
Okay? We take the black water that comes out of the shit pots. He told you about Gates drinking some water, right?
Yeah, he said.
Now that was done in 2008 by somebody. In 2002 they did it in Singapore. In India we did it in 2009. It's important that people like Gates go and say it because, he's a celebrity, he's a star. Now, what Suresh sir is saying, I'll ask you all. If you went to that apartment, it's on Hostel Road in Bangalore, if any of you know Bangalore, and I gave you that water to drink, which is coming off the shit pot, treated of course with some multiple membranes. Will you drink it? Yes or no? Hand up, raise hand. If I gave you water from your own apartment, which is coming from both your black water and your grey water, but it's treated to a point where it is more portable, purer than your Bisleri or whatever water, will you drink it?
Yeah, if it is proved it's good, water quality, why not?
Raise your hands.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying no.
Everybody's saying no?
No, she says yes.
No, no. Are you saying, yes, I will drink if it is purer than Bisleri water? Raise of hands, please.
Yes, if there is proof, we will.
No, no,
take it.
nobody's raising hands. So that's 99% saying
Raise
no.
hands if you have
No, no.
a scientific.
Are the rest of you saying you will not drink? Raise of hands on who will not drink that water. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, that's all. What about the rest? You are all sitting and watching some monkeys dance. Right? No one wants to say yes or no. Come on, guys. I'm not even asking you to speak. I'm asking you to just raise hand.
Yeah.
How many of you will not drink that water?
Only one.
All right, fair enough. I'm glad you're honest about that. You're an architect, you shouldn't be saying that, but
They say if you want to change the landscape of the country,
Yeah.
your mindscape have to change. It's not the
You see that?
technology, yeah, it's the entire mindset that you
take
think.
that back home today.
And it's,
Like the 53 billion tons.
maybe they're not aware, you all want to make it Singapore. Singapore is your model, am I right? And if you go to Singapore, 100% of all the shit water, sorry to use a bad word, black water and grey water are 100% recycled through primary, secondary and tertiary treatment and further on, and all the water is recycled back for use, including not only flushing purposes, including air conditioning water, plus gardening, plus including drinking water. Go to Israel, where maximum amount of problem is there, where these are all countries where 65% of Chinese cities are recycled water. Unfortunately, none of the Indian cities have.
You don't have to go that far. Right here,
Yeah.
in Bangalore, we have at least, I think, about 8 apartments. One of them has got 818 flats, right?
Yeah.
We take all of the water, it's made to a level we are selling that water to other people. In one case, we are selling it as DM grade water, not just as, potable drinking water for humans. We are selling it as DM grade 1 water, which sells at 60 rupees per liter, when your borewell water will be bought at 18 rupees per liter. Do you see what I am saying? You heard CNR, sir, you heard him. And what are they all saying? How do you unbox these challenges and tell yourself every deficit is an opportunity? Right? You're architects, you're engineers here. How many of you are architects here? Raise your hand. No. Okay, great. How many of you engineers here?
Architecture students are here. No, not yet architects.
Even students. Yeah, of course. Students of architecture.
Students are architects, yeah.
So I have to be very specific. Wow. Okay, students of engineering. That also is a reason. It's a fair share now. You heard CNR, the last 10 minutes when he spoke, he was not talking like an architect. If I had not known him to be an architect, I would have probably thought he is some HVAC engineer or some such thing, right? The way he was talking about torsion and, the rest of it, I would have thought he would have been a structural engineer. So what makes an architect like him? Now I want to ask a question. Do you want to be an architect like him who knows more or as much about other things as he will know of architecture? Yes, sir. Can I get a raise of hand on that? Okay. You have Arun Sitaram sitting here who has been saying to me for the last dozen years, and he used to, by the way, advise a university called Transdisciplinary University. He is talking of transdisciplinary. He's saying if you're an architect, you'd better be an engineer first. And if you're an engineer, you'd better be an architect too. Is there anything else you want to ask of these two gentlemen? I'm keeping it as simple as possible so that you can ask questions of these two people. They're going to go away soon today. Yes, please.
I also wanted to add that our challenge, which many of you are participating, is a transdisciplinary challenge. And we're
Right.
hoping one architect and one engineer get together and give us a joint solution. That's what our hope was. We will see what has arrived now.
And
when
it
we
continues to be,
started.
I will say in the present tense, hope is. Yes.
So my question is to both Raghavendra sir and Menon sir. Menon sir, you very rightly advised the students that 1 hour less of social media, 1 hour less of entertainment can be invested in doing something that can bring phenomenal change later on by the snowball effect. So I want both of you, we as faculty keep giving them, so many things to do in that 1 hour less of entertainment, but we want to hear from you more examples and more conversations and concrete things that they can do and in that 1 hour every day? Both of you, can you please give some more examples?
What is your?
No, if that 1 hour is given, what should I do in that 1 hour if I am a student or a young teacher?
Okay. Now, see the interest level. See, first be interested. Be curious, be interested. Anything. It could be music, it could be squash, it could be social service, history, anything. But if you have an interest, pursue that interest. If you pursue that interest, you will not find time to pursue. That curiosity should come from childhood. And that's why I said, keep your eyes open. Architect's mind should be open. It should be like a sponge. You absorb whatever you come across, absorb it. Don't put a filter and say, it's not for me. I have somebody A, B, C, D doing this. It's for you to do. So that's keep the mind open and let the mind be a sponge.
So we have a question from a person called Shivam Dash for you. He says, why is it that the government of India is not mandating certification of the kind that, say, IGBC offers or Grihar, LEED and others? Why are they not making it law?
See, it's very true. Take Singapore, for instance. Singapore, if you want to get a building certificate, you have to make an energy model of the building. The energy model, the standards are laid down. You have to do it their way on a comparative basis. I can't create some energy model and say it passes. Then they look at the specification of your envelope. How much insulation you given? ECBC is a code. How many of you know what ECBC is? ECBC code expanded. Students.
No, students you were asking
Students,
for.
I'm asking
Okay,
students.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Okay. See, ECBC code tells you, and NPC, which Mr. Suresh with input, building should have an insulation. Now, particularly in a country like India, with hot, 80% is hot and hotter. So we need insulation. Now, insulation as a concept is never understood for any architect, many architects. Therefore, if I ask you to find a natural material which will give you an insulation, we have traditional materials, but we don't have, the traditional materials may not be fitting today's way of construction. Therefore, read about it. If you look at the thing, read about it. Insulation is...
I'll take two more questions if it's okay with both of you. One is for Mr. Hari Menon. Can you give, to pick up threads from them, 1 or 2 examples of what they can do with that 1 hour if they are stealing it from social media and other things they do?
I would say, again, 1 hour a day also may be a lot.
Absolutely.
When you're starting, even if it's 1 hour a week, the key is to keep doing it every week because, habits develop over time. They say, you do something for 21 days in a row, then it becomes a habit. So if it's 10 minutes a day, do it for 21 minutes a day, 21 days in a row, then it starts to become something. I'd say start with something that is simplest. I'd say download our world in data on your phone because everyone looks at the phone. Spend 10 minutes on that every day. Absolutely. That would be a very simple thing, hopefully anyone can do. Once you're comfortable with that, I'd say go out into, the nearest low-income neighborhood you can find. Exactly. Just to get a sense of what are the problems of the poor. I think in India, we will need to solve problems of the poor on a scale no country has done.
I'll give you an example of that one. Let's say, now he told you that you must take, say, a Saturday, 12 noon, you start getting off from home. Now you want to go to the nearest slum in your city. How do I go to the slum? I don't know anybody there. So I walk around there. And in the kind of fancy dress you and I wear, that slum guy will say, "Ye kahan se aaya re?" So now, how do you make this happen? I'll give you an example of this. I was sitting in a meeting like this of about 200 people in Capgemini in Bangalore. I was invited like this, and there was another person asking me these questions. And at some point I said, can all of you, and this is relevant to this, can all of you donate just 2 hours a week, I said. And a raise of hand I asked for. Something like 1/2 the room put up the hand. Then I said, If I were to give you, let us say, 10 schools, the principal of the school, the coordinator also who works with them from another NGO, will you then take it up? They said yes. And I then said, I will give you the number. It was a person called Mahesh, and I gave the number and the name. You know what happened in the next 5 days? This was a Friday, by the next Thursday or so, we had 56 calls. 56 calls that came from that company's staff and officers. And they said, sir, I'm willing to give you 2 hours. Donate 2 hours, not money. Donate 2 hours. Now that is one idea you can take. Talk to us. Talk to Yatin. Any of you know Sandeep sir, talk to him. And we will give you schools. We will enable this within, of course, Delhi. And we'll see how we can get started on a program which has to do with either water or with some simple tenets on energy and efficiency and such. My last question to the two of them. Well, we heard of, you talked about what happened in California, and you know what happened there? One side there was fire, and in 7 states there was snow of more than 10 feet, which they had never seen in the last, say, 14 or 15 years. Extreme things happening in one country called the United States, right? The UN Secretary General, the first message this year on January 1st that he offers to all of us is that we have seen the warmest year in the last 10 years, 2024. And he says that 2025 he's giving you bad news. He didn't want to give us bad news today, said Hari Menon. And he says 2025 will be the warmest by far. 2 years ago, he said there is only 3 years left by 2028 if we don't change and do the things that Hari sir talked about. We are not going to reverse things, he said, right? Do you think, my question to you before I go back to them, my question to you, do you think that such a person is an alarm raiser, a doomsayer? Do you think that man is wrong? The UN Secretary General is wrong? He is right. Wow. Thank you so much. The question, therefore, and this is a question from somebody called Prem Jain of RICS, SBE, Amity University, for you. If there are disasters of that kind, like you do in health, you're doing preempt. You're not doing post whatever and earning money out of it like many drug companies do. Are there preemptive measures you think governments can take, communities can take, and we should take as individuals? And both of you can answer that.
So I can be short on that because I'm not a disaster expert, but the answer is yes. And the good news is in India, that's already happening. You know, when the super cyclone hit Orissa in 1999, the scale of death and destruction that happened was horrendous, right? Over 10,000 people dead, people say maybe even 20,000. After that, there have been 3 similar cyclones of similar strength that have hit the Bay of Bengal coast. Not more than 20 people died because the government has now in place a very proactive code to, plan and prepare for these kinds of disasters. When the river Kosi changed its course in 2008 or 9, I think it was in Bihar, the Bihar government actually scaled up its state disaster management authority to do preemptive planning. So now they have flood resilient health infrastructure, school infrastructure, homes in many of the districts that are prone to these floods. So the answer is yes. The challenge is what can we do at a personal level, at a household level, and I think that's where the kind of stuff Dr. Hari is talking about, because at the community level, whether it's in your apartment block, if it's a large apartment block, whether it's in your neighborhood, if it's still the old style neighborhoods, as communities coming together to identify what are the biggest risks that we face and preparing for that, could be the desilting of stormwater drains, could be, figuring out ways to have, decentralized fuel and other, provisions that you can stock up in case there's going to be challenges. It's the planning.
You all know what happened this monsoon. One day, I'm taking a call with Payal ma'am, and you know what she's saying? Well, I can't step out of the gates of my house because we've got 3 feet of water for the last 3 days. How many of you saw all of that in Delhi? All of you saw it, right? All of you saw it? Raise a hand, please. What did you do about it? Anyone who wants to tell us a story of what you did about it? Anyone did anything about it? No. Hari sir told you what you can do about such a disaster. To the person who asked that question, I throw this question back at you, therefore. Was it Shivam Das or was it Prem Jain who asked that question? It was Parth, I think, right? Right? Parth. I throw it back at you. It's like the old, very famous, and I'm not going to tell you who said it. You know, ask not what the state can give you. Ask what you can give the state, right? Or the nation or whatever. One last question before we close. We really have no time. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here with us. You know this old question, sir. This is for you. Well, we see in Delhi, with 48 degrees in 9 months of the year, except for these 6 weeks or 8 weeks of a winter, why do we build these glass-curtained, metal-curtained buildings that architects offer us? You go to Chennai, which is 37 degrees, west-facing, I see a glass like that. What should we do, sir, about such architects?
See, I'll tell you.
That's a question that somebody has asked me here.
No, it's true. See, actually, I mean, most architects would have known the term biomimicry.
Yes.
All of you know. Biomimicry is learning from nature and adapting it to solve your solutions. Now, one of the important things biomimicry tells you is stand under a shade or shade your buildings. Now, stand under the shade in Chennai, you are comfortable with the light breeze running across your skin. So this standing under the tree was taught perhaps 800 million years ago, whenever the human came in. The first human who could stand on his feet looked for a shade and stood under a tree. So, you know, this is like cutting the tree and then saying it's hot and then holding an umbrella. So it's actually a ridiculous thing. But what's happening is there's a transition phase, particularly the Indian perception of making it attractive for multinational companies to come and set up. In fact, most IT companies are the ones that they've tried to please. Let's talk about pleasing the patron. This pleasing the patron attitude of, okay, what's your office in California, Palo Alto like? In fact, we did an office for Oracle in Bangalore, Oracle campus done by us. We made so many schemes, at least dozen images we created, with shade being in the Infosys we did, they accepted, on first scheme was accepted. Keep your glass under shade. You use any glass, whatever the wall window ratio, even 100%, but keep it under shade. You're comfortable. It worked in Chennai. But Palo Alto guy said, finally it went up to Larry Ellison's table. Larry Ellison said, I don't want it. I want, repeat what is in Palo Alto. So we did what Palo Alto was there. And of course we took some precautions. We used a very high performance glass and we created a double skin layer with a ventilated surface. That's the only local input that we could do.
So Yashika, if you are here, thank you for asking that question, that fourth question for this panel. But I will only say this. Yes, thank you, Yashika. You heard him. You know the challenge, if you are going to be an architect, do not be like these architects of the past. If a client comes to you and he says, this is the brief I'll offer you, you tell him, I will listen to your brief, I will interpret your brief and make it better for you with the knowledge I bring as an architect. Please do that. Only 30 seconds more on what you should take away from here if you think you have not wasted time here. There are 3 things you can do with time. You waste it, you invest it, you spend it, right? If this is going to be an investment of time today, and some of you have come all the way from Noida, you have a 1.5 hour trip back. Yes? Sorry? Oh, my God, from Meerut you have come. That's 3 hours from here, you're going to go back. You know what you should do? Think about what Hari sir said in very simple ways. You know what he told me? He showed me that one horrible set of pages he's got. Some complex English, all right, but English that I also won't understand. Nobody will understand. And you know what he did? He threw it away. And he spoke to you in as many simple ways as he could, with as much earnest and sincerity, in ways that he could make you do what he would have done if he was 20 or 21 today. He's not 20, 21 today. What will you want to do to use that 1 hour of donation of time that you will do every week? Please call us. call any of us at Prem Jain. I think many of you, your faculty members will know Yatin. Please talk to Mr. Yatin Malik, or you talk to our Sandeep sir. Anything that you want to leave as a one-sentence message for them also, each of you.
My advice to you is, keep your mind open. Don't accept anything that's told to you. Keep it open. I will look at it in a different angle.
Yeah, mine is, there is no problem in the world that human ingenuity cannot solve.
Fantastic. There's not a problem like that. Round of applause to both of them, please. Give them a standing applause. A standing ovation, as they say.
Yeah, please sit down. Please sit down.
Your wife is a cousin of mine, right? And you got a place in Jeddah.
Yeah, please have a seat, sir. Rajneesh, sir, please have a seat for 5 more minutes.
The world is at crossroads as far as the safety and well-being of our ecosystem is concerned. With rampant urbanization, environmental degradation, and grave consequences of climate change, an overall path correction has become imperative to the existence of all living forms on Earth. Should we continue with the abuse of our precious natural resources? Should we use technology and innovation to conserve them? Can we reduce energy usage with a mindful approach or renewable sources? Dr. Prem Jain anticipated many such challenges we are facing today way back in the 70s. Over half a century of dedication and tireless efforts, he thought and spoke a language that was way ahead of its time. His passion and commitment to his Janmabhoomi and to his own mother ran equally deep.
From my earliest childhood, it's been ingrained with me that truth will always win, what we call Satyamev Jayate. She also gave us the love for all living creatures, trees and plants, the message of non-violence. And ever since my childhood, I've always respected that all life forms are equally important.
The last 10 years saw the culmination of his efforts by remarkably shaping the green movement in India, and his countless admirers began to refer to him as father of green buildings in India. The green revolution he started is the foundation of his legacy. In 2018, Prem Jain Memorial Trust was conceived to carry on his mission and founded upon his values, ideals and vision of a greener Bharat. Today, the Trust enjoys guidance of the best minds of the industry, champions of sustainability, corporate change makers and academicians. PJMT is set on its journey to create, establish and maintain sustainability directions through education, recognition and rewards that nurture future generations.
The best gift you can give to the person is educate him or her. Because then, wherever they are, they will be able to earn and flourish in life.
Each year begins with the Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav, a week-long celebration of sustainability, and our annual flagship event, Prem Jain Memorial Address. The Trust organizes a spectrum of green initiatives which fill the week of January 26, Dr. Jain's birthday week. The Mahotsav is celebrated across the country with immense enthusiasm by Green Crusaders and our partner institutions through an array of sustainability-driven initiatives and activities. Having deep roots with Indian Green Building Council, the Trust has worked in tandem with IGBC and its chapters. PJMT takes great pride in partnering with esteemed partner societies, corporate leaders and premier universities across India, working closely with the common mission of creating a greener earth through the year. The Trust is a catalyst for sustainable research and development, sharing innovations and creating a global platform for exchange of thoughts and ideas to nurture future green ambassadors. PJMT has organized more than 300 green initiatives during Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav in association with its esteemed partner societies, corporates and institutions across India, and arranged over 300 online sessions by distinguished speakers and industry change makers on sustainable built environment, with participation of more than 5,000 students and working professionals. At this edition of Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav, we invite you to join this green revolution, to build a brighter tomorrow and change the world we will leave behind for our children. If we can change the way we think about buildings, maybe what we build will change the world.
आप कौन?
Myself, Garmi. Himself, Bhayankar Garmi.
Oh. Myself, Virat. Himself, Blue Star. Heavy duty. Blue Star Heavy Duty AC. भयंकर गर्मी की छुट्टी.